What's up, little biscuits and sun-dried tomatoes? It's Eddie Collins, and I want to let you know that immediately following this episode with special guest Darin Patterson, the SNL Nerds podcast, will be my interview with Don't Tell Comedy CEO Kyle Amory. Don't Tell Comedy produces amazing stand-up comedy showcases all over the country, and it was a pleasure talking to Kyle about how he produces these events. The discussion is a perfect bookend to this hilarious episode. Don't forget we are a Patreon supported podcast, so please sign up at patreon.com/mediumpopcorn. Our tiers range from $2 to $15, and it all helps. All right, enjoy this episode, folks.
Medium popcorn, we are two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me, and Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn, woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. I'm sorry.
All right, everybody. Well, that was insane. I'm Eddie Collins.
Guys, it's Justin Brown.
And we're Medium Popcorn. You already know that because you heard Justin's velvety voice singing over that nice little rendition of Easy
And
Love.
then to come into the show to another song of me going, Pokemon.
I thought you were going to sing the song that, Garrett sings in the movie. You know what I mean? I'm going to kill Whitey over there, everybody's a Whitey, I'm going to kill him. Yeah, I thought you were going to do that, but... Wait.
That would have been nice, but that was a wild, that'd be a wild way to start this show.
That would be, yeah, especially without any context. But folks saw the title of this episode. It's Saturday night, and they saw the name of the guest who was joining us, Mr. Darin Patterson from the SNL Nerds podcast. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. Hey, Brandon. Hey, Justin. What's going on? My strong black brothers.
What's good, brother?
We good, brother. We good, man.
All right.
Talking about the whitest movie we could have possibly seen. We're gonna have fun tonight.
Wait. Let's not do that because there is literally one nigga in this movie.
Well, there's two. There is we got Lamorne Morris, and then we have John Baptiste, who also did the music.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right. He played
Billy Preston,
the band leader.
Billy Preston. Thank you.
He's like, look at over here. We got a theater boy. Do. I was just like, people just fucking jiving over at this motherfucker.
Hey, somebody get this nigga some cocaine. I'm like, what?
But Darin, you have a very big, deep history and knowledge of Saturday Night Live. You recap every episode of your podcast. So tell the listeners about SNL Nerds and about your affinity for Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, sure. Like, I'm a big fan of Saturday Night Live. Me and my buddy John Trumbull, we live out here in New Jersey. We both really dig the show so much to the point we decided, hey, let's do a podcast about it. So we break down all the latest episodes, the ones that come out every week. And then the time when there's no new episode, we'll do something like an SNL-related movie, like a movie that has an SNL alum in it. We've had you on twice, Justin. We got to get you on. We will do that this summer, I promise.
It's okay. We're gonna make it happen, man.
You gotta get the Justin Brown on because you at least have one poop story for you, and a lot of Eddie Murphy impressions.
Wait, and we also talk to people who are involved with the show too. Like we've talked to former writers. We've talked to some of the recent directors that have directed some of the biggest like pre-tapes they've had recently. Mike Diva. We've talked to some of the set designers there. Like, we really get into it with SNL. So, SNL Nerds, check us out.
Awesome, man. Now, have you watched any of the SNL 50 stuff or read the book, about, with the testimonials and stuff like that? Because I'm like, I've been flowing with my SNL nerddom and knowledge. I'm, fascinated by Lorne Michaels. But from your perspective, did you watch any of that stuff to, learn more about the show?
Yeah, I watched all the specials. We did episodes about them all. So there was 4 of them that came out on Peacock, and then there was the one Questlove directed about SNL music. They're all fantastic. If you really want to get into the meat and potatoes of the show, I highly recommend them. And as for the book, bam, I got it right here.
You go.
Yeah,
I love that book. I love it. It's very good, like informative. And then I think the 50th anniversary had some like documentaries that I actually texted Justin about because there's some really cool stuff there, especially like who didn't make the cast and shit, who auditioned.
Yeah.
And but I've always been fascinated by Lorne Michaels' process as like a producer. As a producer,
there it is.
I just have always, because like it's so manic, but it somehow works every fucking week. And it's like, not everyone's gonna like that. Not everyone's gonna like him as a boss. I've just been fascinated by that stuff. So then that leads. Well, Justin, I mean, I know you have a relationship with SNL because of, Eddie Murphy and stuff like that. But had you ever gone on a deep dive, like learning about the process and Lorne and stuff?
Well, also being a performer, as a performer, like when I was at Upright Citizens Brigade, that was like a grooming for SNL when I was on the mod teams and things like that. So basically, the whole process on how the mod teams works was basically created right after SNL. With the writing team, the actors, writer actors, and like you're basically pitching your stuff and just trying to get it onto the show, every week, every month, as far as the mod teams were concerned. So like, even though like I've watched SNL since I was a kid, and I mean that I think the Eddie Murphy the best of Eddie Murphy tape. I feel like every black folks has them.
Oh yeah, I have it behind me.
I have it in here.
Yeah.
Me too.
As
right
it is,
over here.
in his heart.
Like in actuality, I feel like that was my introduction to SNL. And then I started watching SNL weekly after that. Because at that time, we had In Living Color was on. Mad TV was just following that. So like we had other things that especially our community were kind of more into, and SNL was kind of like secondary at that point.
And that makes sense too as to why like it's interesting because Eddie Murphy was like a foundation for a lot of us, like young, black men in comedy and stuff like that. And that's ironically when Lorne Michaels wasn't running the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think
there's a whole
so
debate about whether Lorne Michaels actually would have hired Eddie Murphy if he was around.
Probably not, honestly. And I think Eddie still would have been huge because you think about like who didn't get in? Kevin Hart, Donald Glover, Jordan Peele, and there was someone else that really surprised me. I was like, oh shit, they passed Jim Carrey.
Yeah, he
obviously
auditioned twice and didn't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert.
Yes.
Galifianakis auditioned.
Zach Galifianakis.
He auditioned, didn't get it.
I believe, no.
Mindy.
Yeah. So it's like there's a ton.
Yeah,
of
I remember
people.
seeing Mindy Kaling in one of the specials audition, didn't get it.
Yes.
Jennifer Coolidge. Yeah, there's tons of people that tried out for it and just didn't make the cut.
But I listened to a podcast with Lorne Michaels where he's like, just sometimes it's not the timing because Mark Maron had been fucking bugging out about his whole career, basically, like how he didn't get SNL. And then Lawrence just like, well, it was timing because the studio wanted to cancel us and we had to make some decisions. And I'm like, okay, got it. There's a lot of great SNL podcasts that talk about what it's like to work there. Like Dana Carvey and David Spade have a great podcast about that.
Yeah, they have a good one.
So like two people from my mod team actually went to SNL, John Milheiser and Shasir Zameda. And like I remember when they got on, I was super happy for him. But at that time, Jay Farrell was on SNL, and I knew I was just like, there's no reason for me to even think about auditioning because Jay Farrell's there, and like he does the same things that I do, so I don't have a shot. So like I just knew where I stood. So so when it comes to timing, it really is a thing because they're neat. And Lorne Michaels said it in the documentary, like sometimes they have a need for something or they're looking for something, and then like the right person comes along. But like other times it's just like, hey, that's already taken. Like, what are we gonna do unless they're gonna let somebody go to pick you up?
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about like people like I know who write and like we know like people who've been on SNL. We know Michael Che through the comedy scene, Pete Davidson. And I think with Pete was more surprising. Pete was like once he got on SNL, he was like out of here. And I think once he started dating like, you know, Ariana Grande and other folks, he went to a different level, which I never even imagined for that kid. But he's always been great, like, you know, funny guy, very quirky. Like, I've known him for a long time. Che was not surprising because this dude went from, I remember him like within a month, it felt like he blew up. Because like out of nowhere, he was like headlining shows. Then he was on The Daily Show. And then you heard about him getting poached from The Daily Show for SNL. And you're like, what the, like this guy's on a different level now.
No, I remember those times. I remember he had that show in Brooklyn at the bar Matchless, R.I.P.
Yes, Broken Comedy.
Yeah, and then like I remember seeing him. It was like some comedy special. I think it was like John Oliver comedy special, something like that. He got some time on there. I remember he had a really good set, and like before you knew it, like bam, he was just he just ascended to the next level.
Well, they started embracing stand-up comics as writers and performers too on the show. I think that's a big change, right? Because they've been usually recruiting from like, performers were from Groundling, Second City, UCB, like you said, Justin, and then writers are often come from like the Harvard Lampoon and shit like that, like, you know, like Ivy League dudes. And they weren't mixing it up as like, you know, a place like The Simpsons or something like that was back in the day. So Darin, from your perspective, like what do you think Saturday Night the movie depicted the process of making SNL?
I think they got it mostly right. I mean, from what I've read about what actually happened on that first night, it's sort of true, sort of not what happened in the movie. I've noticed a lot of things that happened in the movie. They kind of embellished in order, you know, for cinematic effect to make it bigger and scope than it is. Like the phone call that Lauren gets from Johnny Carson that never happened. There's a few things in there that like definitely didn't happen, but it just got kind of thrown in there just to like kind of build up the lore and make it more cinematically entertaining. Which I mean I get, but I don't know. Part of me kind of wants them to kind of stick to exactly what happened a little bit. But I mean, as far as the whole process of like what usually goes into a show, like I think they got it mostly right, but then some of it just kind of get fluffed up for the cinema.
Yeah, well, and that's a weird thing. It's just like we know that it's going to get fluffed up, but when you're talking about something, especially something like SNL, which is like a comedy institution, it's like you don't necessarily have to fluff it up because there's enough out there, you know, to make it interesting. So that's kind of like a weird thing. That's
my biggest issue with this movie. And folks, we're talking about Saturday Night, the 2024 film, directed by Jason Reitman, written by Jason Reitman and Gil Kennan. It's starring a great cast: Gabrielle LaBelle from The Fabelmans, Rachel Sennott, Corey Michael Smith, Dylan O'Brien, and a bunch of other actors, including J.K. Simmons, Finn Wolfhard, and Nicholas Braun. My biggest gripe with it was it felt so fake and superficial at times, just for like exposition's sake, or you know, like there's the one scene that really grinded my gears is when Rachel Sennott's character is talking to Dylan O'Brien, who's playing Dan Aykroyd, right? And it was actually like known that Danny Aykroyd was fucking. Dan Aykroyd was like, he was the guy that all the women loved on the cast.
Was out here.
He was like the Pete Davidson of his cast, I guess. And basically, like, you know, he's hooking up with Laura Michaels, this like soon to be ex-wife or ex-wife question mark. And then she just goes in a soliloquy about Lauren's upbringing and like how he like had like an apartment with no furniture and all these things. And I'm like, this isn't a natural conversation. Like that's the thing is, if you ever like had to get ready for a performance and you have a tight timeline and there's so much tension around you, you don't have time to be talking about bumfuck Ohio or Canada where I'm from. Like every second counts. It drove me insane.
Yeah, that really felt like shoehorned in. Like that. I mean, I did like this movie quite a bit, but yeah, like there were things in it that just like stuck out to me like that, and it's just like, all right, what is this? What are we doing here?
And to that point that you just made, you know, this is not like a year in. This is the first show, and most of these people have never been on television.
Nope.
So like, you know, this is their first time. This is like their introduction to the world. Everybody would be nervous as shit, which I'm pretty sure they were, and just like hyper focused, and it's just like, all right, I got to make this right, and sort of freaking out. Like I think, you know, oh, I'm sorry, my man's Lamore Morris as Garrett
Morris.
He
no relation.
Excuse me. I felt like, you know, his character kind of like having that existential crisis of like, hey, do I belong here? Why am I here? Why was I hired? And it's just like, they only have me in the background in this sketch and things like that. I felt like that felt more real to me. And not just because he's a black character, but just based off the fact is like, yeah, I'm going on TV. I was doing all this other stuff, but I'm like, I feel like I don't fit in.
I think I talked to Darin when I first saw this movie because I think I saw it before Darin did. I remember being like, I couldn't tell who this movie was for because if you're an SNL nerd, right, you know that Garrett Morris felt like that, but like throughout the whole season, it wasn't just like this one time where he's like, why am I here? Blah, blah, blah. There wouldn't have been any time for that.
Yeah.
Like, that's what was so. And I get like they were trying to do a real time movie, and it's very ambitious, and I think it could have worked had Aaron Sorkin written the script. If you would have had like Aaron Sorkin and a better director, I think that this could have been what they were trying to do. This felt like a Aaron Sorkin wannabe, like the walking and talking and stuff. But it just some of it felt too contrived, and I very rarely use that word because I like to like escape in movie magic and stuff, and I think. Maybe it's because producing, performing. I'm just like none of this would be happening right now. Like,
this is not how this stuff
John
goes
Belushi.
down.
I would shake John Belushi, be punching him in the face if he didn't sign that.
Yeah, and that's
contract.
that.
Oh, no. That nigga would
Yeah, that's something that really happened. He didn't sign his contract until like the night of the show, which is wild.
Yeah, but like also him walking off and ice skating downstairs and all that shit. I'm just like, listen, I don't give a fuck how much coke he got in his system. My man would be catching some lefts and rights, pulling that shit. If I'm the producer of this show, and he's like, you know, or he just wouldn't be on the show.
Yeah, like that's another thing I wasn't too crazy about. The way they portrayed Belushi as like this kind of, you know, prima donna diva who's just like throwing temper tantrums and just like upset and huffy all the time. And like I mean, he was a professional. He, you know, when it was time to perform, he performed. But like they kind of portrayed him at this like guy who, I mean, because I guess the thing is like he's upset that he's on television because he kind of a little bit see what he's doing is like beneath him, and the way Dick Ebersol's trying to get him to sell cameras on TV and all that stuff, and he's like, oh, they're destroying my art type of thing. And I was like, I don't think Belushi was really like that. Like he could be a little.
He wasn't loud about it.
He was loud. But...
He was one of those, that's what. Yeah, that's the thing, Darin, is like, who was this for? Because if I'm an SNL nerd and I know how these people actually were, there's very few portrayals. Like, there's portrayals that I'm like, okay, casting, like they look like the person and they kind of act like them, but it still felt at times like you're just doing what the script is telling you to do, the rumors or like what the generic narrative about this person is. And I just felt it never went deeper. Like, we didn't learn anything about Gilda. And apparently Gilda was the heart and soul of that cast.
Yeah, I wish I kind of saw that more of that too. Like, I think mostly the women in this movie, like the woman played Jane Curtin and Lorraine Newman.
She had that one weird scene, which like it was a good impression of Jane Curtin, but she actually was the least looking like one that looked like her counterpart.
But she acted enough like her. Like, I get it. They were trying to do a thing where like she had that scene with Garrett Morris, because like the two of them, I think in the lore are kind of maybe the most overlooked cast members of the original cast, I guess, just because they're both older and they're both, you know, not the young, hip, wild cast members the others were. So they were just kind of like, they're just kind of pushed off to the side a little bit. So they were having that little moment together, like, yeah, we've kind of been through this show business thing before, so like, you know, we're kind of settled into our age, I guess. But,
which shout out to Jane Curtin on Third Rock from the Sun. It was so fucking hilarious. Because I didn't know like Coneheads or anything like that, but
I remember that. It's a wild movie.
I haven't seen those movies in a long time. I just remember them scaring the fuck out of me. They were eating toilet paper, and I'm like, Mom, what's happening?
We come from France.
With their sharp, pointy teeth.
Was that their teeth? That was their cover? For real?
Yeah, they were from.
Yeah, we come from France.
Oh my god.
That's the whole thing. Like on the sketch, they would tell like whenever anybody would look at their cone heads and be like, "Hey, where are you guys from?" They would say, "France. We're from France." And they were like,
"Yeah, we come from France." Yeah.
That's the whole thing, baby.
It's weird.
I know,
it's weird.
It's weird. Like in a lot of recaps, like I actually, especially like the past few years, you don't see like anniversaries. You don't see too many like Conehead recaps and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's weird because like that is one of their first kind of breakout Sketches.
Movies,
movies and sketches and whatnot. So it's like weird. You don't see that often.
And were there multiple Conehead
No,
movies?
just the
No, there's just the one.
It's just that one.
Maybe in your mind.
I don't know, man.
12-year-old Justin's dreaming of Coneheads too. Electric Boogaloo.
But but like as a kid, that transition from like SNL to the films, and it was the same people, and they kept the party going. It felt like there was more.
Yeah, they could have kind of gone a little bit deeper with. I think because like they were trying to make this film for SNL nerds like myself, but also make it a little bit more accessible to the average person. But then again, they kind of left out a lot of things that like you kind of have to know, like with Dick Ebersol's role in the whole thing, like because like the movie just kind of just dives right in, doesn't really explain who's who and what's what. Like you wouldn't know that Dick Ebersol is like one of the main reasons that SNL is on the air. Like
that's the Cooper Hoffman character, by the way.
For those that don't know, basically SNL became what it was because mainly because of Johnny Carson, who was like of course the revered talk show host back in the day, and like one of NBC's crowning jewels, and his show, The Tonight Show, used to rerun on Saturdays, like because it was such a big show and everybody loved watching it. And then one day Johnny was like, "Hey, I kind of those reruns are airing on Saturdays. I want you to air those during the week because I want a shorter work week and I want days off." So NBC was like, "All right, yeah, sure." So now they had that free time slot for to air something. So then they went to Dick Ebersol, who was the executive of late night television, and say, "Hey, try to find a show to fill in this, this open slot we have." And then Dick found Lorne, and then Lorne became, the man he is today. He was able to do that.
So, but the question is, like, was it a real thing that they were just like, "Oh, we want this to fail because it's a bargaining chip with Johnny Carson"?
No.
It was always disposable from what I read.
Yeah.
Like it was like it'd be cool if this like worked, but like we're not going to lose sleep if it doesn't. And so there was always pressure on Lorne and them to make it successful. It was like we could give a fuck, but to ramp up tension for this film, I think they were just like, "Hey, it's not going to go on tonight. You will go down." Look at some Willem Dafoe with a weird, creepy monologue.
Yeah. He played David Tebbutt, who was the head of talent or like the VP of talent. His claim to fame was he's the one that recruited Johnny Carson and put him on the Tonight Show as the host. So he's like a big deal.
Quick aside: is Willem Dafoe like the hardest working man in Hollywood? He's in everything. I feel like even when I don't know he's in the movie, he pops up like a Nosferatu, and I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, how do you have time for this shit?"
He's not even credited. He's just like, "I'm here, guys."
Like Willem Dafoe's here. Is he on the schedule? He's not.
I am now Peter Parker.
It's just really wild. I see him in everything.
Right. But yeah, it is a thing where they kind of amped it up to for dramatic effect. Like the fact that like when they said like all these people were against them, like the higher ups and David Tebbutt, like that. It really wasn't like that. Of course, they wanted the show to succeed, but if it didn't, they would be like, "All right, we'll just we can just go back to showing reruns and renegotiate with Johnny." Like it wasn't one of these things where. Again, there's something they did for dramatic effect. I feel like where they were like, "Oh, these young upstarts, they don't know this is going to fail. This isn't going to go anywhere." And it wasn't like that, but they did have that a lot throughout the movie, where it's like the old guard versus the new. Of course, we're like, when they bring in Milton Berle and all this stuff later on.
That was wild.
With his notoriously big dick, apparently.
Yeah,
that was like a real thing. He would flash people all the time.
He actually. In the Live from New York book, he showed it to one of the writers on Alan Zweibel, who pops up at the end. Pops up, no pun intended. But yeah, he and according to the book Live from New York, he whipped it out to show Alan Zweibel, and he said like it was like a pepperoni log. It was big. It was a problem. And I think as he was looking at it, like Gilda walked in and saw it. So. No HR.
But
apparently, I mean, that's a wild thing to do. That's a wild thing. It's just like, drop your dick out. I was like, "You see this? You see what I'm working with?"
It's a literal dick measuring contest with the Chevy Chase character in that scene with when he pulls out his dick trying to impress Kaya whatever the actress.
Kaya Gerber played Jacqueline Carlin, who was Chevy's
Thank you.
fiance at the time. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And like that was an interesting scene because, like you said, Darren, it's like the old versus the new, and like who's gonna come out on top. And like Milton's like, "You're nobody," and like if you want my comeback, you got to scrape it from your mom's teeth. But I was like, Jesus Lord.
Yeah, from the back of your mom's teeth. I was like, God damn. I wrote that shit.
That's down. Like when you're having like one of those roast battles with your friend, or like you're doing the dozens, and it's like somebody goes a little bit too far. That's what that seemed like to me.
That's really far. Darren, if I'm playing like the dozens with my friends and someone said that about my mom, I'd be like, all right, where's the bags?
You got to die. Yeah, that was a little too far.
Okay. How'd y'all feel about the real time aspect of the movie? Where it's like we start with like, the clock coming down and Lawrence freaking out in the lobby and stuff like that too. Live at Saturday night. How we feel about that?
I liked it. Like I saw some other interviews about this movie, and they said like, they wanted the true villain of this movie to be time. Like you always hear like a clock ticking in the background, and so you feel the anxiety and the pressure of you kind of going through the same thing Long's going through. It's a very like fast paced type of show. Like there's not a lot of scenes where people like kind of slow down and talk and just kind of bring it down a bit. It's just like always like really fast paced. Something's always happening. Leo is coming up with bricks through the freight elevator for the stage, which never happened. I don't know why they put that in there. You have the host George Carlin.
Well, because they had to make that whole like thing. It was just like, the union people didn't want to work on the show because such. But then again, everybody came together.
Union strong, bro.
Yeah.
We got your back.
Somebody grab a brick. I was like, come on, we don't.
They all realized that the show was bigger than all of them.
You know what? I think also like grinding my gears when I first saw this movie in the movie theater. I'm gonna keep saying that. 'Cause, gee golly, this movie put me in a tizzy. I read a review of someone I think saw it at Sundance. They saw Saturday Night at Sundance. And they were like, "Yeah, it's a real crowd pleaser." And I remember seeing that scene with the bricks when they're coming together to put the show together at the last second, which is insane because they posited that within this 90-minute window, they yet to run one successful sketch. One.
Yeah.
No, that would not go live. Like, I don't care how inspiring he is or Andy Kaufman doing some lip syncing shit. That's not going to make this guy put this disaster on air live.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is it's like, have you guys seen the first episode of SNL?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time. It did make me I need to go back and watch that because if this were the case, which I know it's not, that those sketches would be god awful. It's the first they have never been run. The first time they're happening is like on stage. Like that would be so crazy.
That's my nightmare, Justin. That'd be my nightmare. Like we performed sketches for years. We performed sketches in theaters, in comedy clubs, in the back of a fucking bar for some reason. Like I would freak the fuck out if we were doing all that for the first time. Like, what the fuck did we do? I feel like, what are we doing? We should just kill ourselves. That's I mean, folks,
especially with the ragtag group of people that we had.
By the way, folks, so suicide is not a laughing matter. If you do have issues, you should call a crisis text line or a text line.
Yeah, take care of yourself.
Yes, please take care of yourself. Because people at SNL apparently go insane.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's a high pressure situation. Yeah.
My therapist has told me personally, he's like, I know I have clients that are writers for that show. You do not want to be on that show, Brandon.
Yeah,
I
mean, it's a pressure cooker. I mean, you're literally creating an entire 90-minute show from scratch, starting on Monday, and it has to be on air by Saturday at 11:30. And like you're constantly doing rewrites, and you're writing, and you're like, there people rewrite scripts like up to like the taping, and then there's not even the pre-tapes where they gotta do everything, and there's directing. You gotta edit that down. If there's music rights, you gotta clear that. It's a lot. It's a lot.
And we're talking what? It's like, let's say with commercials, music performance, like what, an hour 20?
Yeah.
An hour, maybe an hour. Let's say an hour. Because with because I think the show runs
and stuff.
No, but the show runs. It starts at what is it? 11:15 now?
No, it's usually like around 11:25, 11:30, something like that.
Yeah, it's like 25.
Okay.
It's like a weird.
And then, and then that's why I thought it was 15. But then it runs to 1 a.m. Right?
Yeah.
So you cut out like what, a half hour? That's like maybe 25 minutes for commercials, and then you're cutting out like another 10 for the music performance. So then it's like an hour of sketch.
Yeah, that's why, like, logistically, like when he had all the sketches on the board and stuff, it's cool like that to see that, even like if you're a passive fan, to see how everything comes together. It's just you didn't learn anything about Lauren's process. And literally the third act just posits that he just looked at the board and was just like, like you don't actually
happen here.
Yeah.
It was like Neo in the Matrix. He was able to see it all. It's just all X's and ones and zeros.
You know what it is? It's like when you see an attractive person that you really, really want to have sex with, and then you finally, like, everything's working out. You're back in the room. You're like, you're about to make love, and then it's the worst. It's like the worst love making ever. That's how this felt for me watching this movie. I'm like, this movie is giving me everything I think I want as an SNL fan.
I wouldn't know what that feels like.
And then I'm watching it. I was not made love to when I saw this movie. Mind you, I saw it 3 times just to make sure, like, I wasn't just like feeling a certain ways the first time I saw it. It gets worse every time for me.
Oh, Jesus. Jesus.
It
Imagine
does.
you fuck somebody 3 times in a row and it only gets worse. And it's the most attractive woman you've ever met, and 3 times in a row, and every time it's just oh no,
oh no, it's you, it's definitely you.
Oh, that's the
not
worst.
me, it's you.
Yep.
It's all of us, actually. It's just everything.
You know what? That happened to me once, but it was only twice.
Yeah, especially like I feel bad, but like especially for a band, you're like after the second time, you're like, oh, I thought it was like a fluke. No, this isn't. This is
Yeah. You say to yourself, it's just like, well, I mean, what's there not to like about pussy, right?
Like pizza.
How could this be bad? It's the optimal meal. And then you realize, like, oh no, this is not good. I don't want to put this in my mouth.
Wow. Wow.
See, I don't know. I don't know how we got here, but
You know how we do
live comedy is. So I actually have been working on like I have a treatment for it. That actually is one of the treatments that got me into the Universal Writers Program, which, Justin's heard the story, Darin. I think you have too, because you're a fan of the podcast. But, I got my start in comedy in high school when we actually did like an SNL-esque show. We had like, Rite Aid team. We like practiced, like it was very high pressure the night of, like packed out auditoriums and shit like that. And so I wanted to write a script about this experience, and then I heard this movie was coming out, and that's going to be in real time, building up to the opening night of SNL. I'm like, fuck. So I just put it on a pause. I was like, I'm not going to write it till I see this movie. And then I see it, and I'm like, oh, like I have nothing to worry about, but it does suck that it took the format of real time, because now I can't use that in my script because it's been so poorly. Dude, I think this movie really underperformed. Like,
well, no, but that's the thing. So it's still viable. That script is still viable. That format is still viable. It just has to be, used the right way. I mean, the show 24, they stretched out a whole fucking season. It was supposed to be 24 hours. I mean, like, you can make it happen. I
can't believe Kiefer Sutherland made so many of them.
People love that movie.
He did 24 episodes a season. That's insane.
Yeah, nuts.
Sometimes you just spend an hour shitting. I would if I were dealing with the stress and anxiety he was dealing with. It's just like, hey, I just need an hour to myself, an hour break. I'm just gonna go to Denny's. Just episodes of him eating breakfast at Denny's.
I need some me time.
Beep, beep, beep.
Actually, that would be the funniest thing about there was a reboot of 24, and some episodes are just like bottle episodes where the dude's just in his car screaming.
He's got the runs. He's just
This is the worst day ever.
I plugged up the toilet. No.
Okay. All right. So, Darin, what were some of your favorite parts about this movie? Since you seem to enjoy it.
I will agree with you. There are parts that I wasn't too wild about, but like I I did like a lot of the performances. I think the performances were strong. I think Rachel Sennett as Rosie Schuster gave a really good performance. Gabriel LaBelle as Lorne gave a really good performance.
He's great.
I also liked some of the actors that played the some of the cast members, like the kid that played Dan Aykroyd. I thought did a really good Dan Aykroyd impression.
Yeah, Dylan O'Brien.
Yeah, and the one that really
this close to being Spider-Man,
really?
by the way.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think the thing that won Tom Holland was that Tom Holland could really flip.
Oh, damn.
Oh well, yeah, he was like acrobatic.
Yeah, he's I think he danced ballet or something. He was Billy Elliot in like the London musical. Yeah. So yeah, he can do that.
Flip
shit.
the motherfucker. But I mean, the also one I really like. We haven't talked about yet. The kid that played Billy Crystal. I thought he did a really good Billy Crystal impression. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Nicholas Ponde. Yeah, he was good. Billy Crystal. I thought Corey Michael Smith was pretty decent as Chevy Chase too. Like not just the physical resemblance, but like the stories you hear about Chevy, it's like all that's in that performance.
Yeah, like he's just like this kind of arrogant, dude with swagger and height. And like at the time, he was kind of seen. Like I think the networks didn't really like him, and they were thinking, oh, he's like he has like some star quality there. Like maybe we can do a show with him, or maybe I believe he was like in contention to like replace Johnny Carson at one point. Like in the 70s, people were really wanted to be like in the Chevy Chase business for a while, and you can kind of see why a little bit.
Well, yeah, and I think at that time he was like, he's 81 now, so he was what, 30?
I think, or he was in his 30s, you think?
Yeah, he was 30. Well, 32 because because SNL came out what?
Yeah,
November.
No, October '75. So yeah, Chevy Chase was 32. I wrote it down.
Yeah, hold on. Shit, it came out 3 days after his birthday.
Oh.
He's October 8th. SNL premiered on October 11th. So he was 32 years old.
Nice.
All right, happy. What do we do with that birthday information?
I don't know. I was just
I'm just trying to say, like, his age and where he was. So it's like, it's not like he was like some young brash kid.
Yeah,
it was like he was a grown ass man. Like this is who he is.
Yeah, like no, like this.
Man. No, but I'm saying like this is who he is. He's like baked into like who Chevy Chase is at this time. So it's just like it's kind of like him, love or hate him. And like obviously a lot of people hate that guy. But
I also like how they played it in the movie a little bit, where like he does have this kind of swagger, a little bit of arrogance too, but he's also, if you watch in the movie, you can kind of see it's also kind of like a facade, because he does have his doubts and worries, like the one conversation he had with like Herb Sargent, and how with the writer, and like the other conversation he had with like David Tebbutt, who I think he said, oh, you're you're tall, handsome, funny Gentile. That means something. And like, so like a lot of people were telling him
I was like, this dude's gonna fuck him.
I
got a weird vibe from that one. Willem Dafoe was insane in this show.
So
those glasses, you got those rose-colored glasses, baby.
And then he had the room. He had those rooms where you like have a secret lock door and shit, a little button.
He had the Matt Lauer.
I was trying to think of his name, and you got it. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, like they showed it like, yeah, he does have this, all this heat on him, but at the same time he's like doubting himself. It's like, am I the guy? Can I really do this? And so they showed a little bit of a human side to Chevy.
It's so funny that Darin said he's a little bit arrogant. With the first scene we see Chevy, he falls over. It's like, sorry, I tripped over my penis. Like this guy's. That's how we meet him. So,
but I mean, at the same time, it's just like that early SNL. He was doing a lot of those pratfalls and things like that, which I think it worked for him, because it was contrary to like a guy of his stature and like his level of confidence that he brought on stage, and he's falling over and shit like that. Like that's why it was funny, and like that's why that was funny at that time. So I'm like all right, I understood the psychology of it.
Yeah, he was like definitely kind of their first breakout star on the show, because like the pratfalls people loved, and I think also the fact that he he anchored down the Weekend Update segment. That gave him a big boost over the rest of the cast, because he was able to look into the camera and say, "I'm Chevy Chase, and you're not." So like he was able to introduce himself like one-on-one with the audience, like which the other cast members didn't really get a chance to do because it was all an ensemble. So like it sort of became like Chevy Chase and the other guys type of show.
And the biggest thing to know about Weekend Update, folks, if you're not like familiar with like SNL lore and like best practices, I guess to say, is you always want to try to aim like Weekend Update anchors get it the best because they have their segment guaranteed. But if you can get a bit on Weekend Update, it's very rare that it gets cut. Same for as a writer to get on the cold open, right, Darin? It's like the cold open never gets cut. So if you can get the cold open, like you at least will have something, but that's like usually for senior writers. And stuff,
I think like John
nonetheless.
Mulaney said that in an interview recently where he was talking about when he was on the show. I forget the other writer he was paired up with, and he said, "Yeah, you and I were going to do the monologue. You know why? Because they can't cut them. Oh no, the monologue or the cold open. Like they can't cut the cold open. So that and the monologue as well. Like
And the monologue
those are
too,
two things that can't be cut. So if you get on those, you're golden, baby."
Shout out to Alex English, who I think wrote a few really big monologues the past few years when he was on
Shout out to
SNL.
him.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Man, I wanted to like this movie. I know I keep looking at like the plot summary, and I'm like, I wanted to enjoy it. It just for some reason,
like I think you're looking at it through the lens of somebody who's been in the business and you're kind of how it all works. You're as a producer. So, like, I think you're looking at it through that lens. But like, I think if you kind of look at it as somebody who's just looking for just a good movie, I think it becomes more decent. I will admit it does have its faults, and it does kind of fall into a lot of tropes. Like at the end where they all get together and put on a show, and they kind of do things here and there where it's like, that feels kind of forced. That doesn't feel too. That feels a little wobbly, but like overall.
the cast is great. Gabriel LaBelle as Lauren Michaels. He also played Steven Spielberg in The Fabelmans. He's definitely a rising star. He's got something cooking. And I would actually love to see him and Kyle Chandler play father and son. He made some faces where I was like, because I've been rewatching Friday Night Lights, and he made some very Kyle Chandler as faces. That's one of the best shows of all time, man.
It is.
It's so fucking good. But the cast does their thing. They're really good. I was confused at first about the Nicholas Braun playing both Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson, because I thought they casted Benny Safdie to play Andy Kaufman, but he had to drop out for scheduling conflict. Yeah. So, but it's just confusing that they never addressed it. I thought it was going to be Andy Kaufman masquerading as Jim Henson, because I was like, this is just, you're not going to talk about it. He's the same guy.
I think that is a little weird, I thought, but like, I mean, I think they did enough that you were able to differentiate that the two people were two different guys. I thought, like Jim Henson kind of had a different type of way about him, and Andy Kaufman. I wasn't too crazy about the way he played Andy Kaufman, because he played him in that Foreign Man character, and Andy didn't really talk like that the whole time. He wasn't in character the whole time. He was just like, "Hey, I'm Andy," and I'll go with my character later. But
I was listening to a podcast the other day where they talked about Jim Carrey doing The Man on the Moon, and apparently Jim Carrey was completely insane as Andy Kaufman playing Andy Kaufman, to the point where like even people that knew Andy Kaufman were like, "Dude, this is ridiculous! Like, you gotta stop this shit."
Well, yeah, there's a big interview with Jerry the King Lawler, the wrestler that Andy Kaufman had the whole thing with, and like when he was on set, like the way Jim Carrey was acting, he was just like, first of all, like Andy and I were friends. It's just like, he didn't do that. He wasn't crazy like this. So he was actually pretty offended by it. And then like he actually fucked up Jim Carrey at some point. Like he hurt him or something like that. But Jim Carrey did all this weird shit on set to the point where I think after he sent him like a guitar or something like that, a famous person's guitar, like as a gift and whatnot. But like, yeah, he was really, really bad to the point where people just like, do we like Jim Carrey?
Yeah, some people go too method. You know what I mean? They lose themselves.
Yeah, but especially like when you're going method, and then you're being method for a person, but it's not right. It's
Oh
like
yeah,
you're
like,
like that's not even the right person.
it's completely
Like-
insane.
like-
Also, it's always you have to look at the demographic of the people who are known, like character actors and method actors and stuff, and they get away with this shit. It's always white guys, because goddamn well, if Denzel was playing Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York and walking around all day acting like that motherfucker, he would have been on the New York Post and arrested.
Well, first of all, Brandon, I just want to put this out here. I mean, Wesley Snipes was in character as Blade all throughout Blade 3.
And then IRS got him. They locked that
He's
nigga
a dude
up.
playing a dude disguised as another dude.
UV, our producer's
Blade.
asking us. She's asking us to shout out Conan, who was a writer on SNL, but I mean, I know Conan as a writer from The Simpsons because he wrote some of my favorite
I think
episodes.
he was on there at the same time as Bob Odenkirk, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe
Yes.
Robert Smigel as well.
A lot of famous writers from SNL. And so we got to see a little bit of the writing process. We got to see Michael O'Donoghue played by Tommy Doo, who I also thought was pretty solid in that role, like the very snarky, because Michael O'Donoghue's a fucking asshole.
Yeah,
So
yeah, he was.
They played that smarminess.
Yeah,
very
yeah,
well.
he was one of the. I mean, he was the first head writer, and like he did have a very dark, acerbic sense of humor to him. But yeah, like I thought that guy had like a lot of the best lines. Like that one scene he has with the censor from the woman from Standards and Practices. I liked. And the one scene where he's like dressing down George Carlin, saying he's a ponytail vulture, feeding off the bones of Lenny Bruce. I was like, God damn.
Yeah, yikes.
But yeah, he was good. We saw some of the other writers. I mean, Rosie Schuster got most of the bulk of the screen time as far as writers go. Alf, Franken and Davis popped in here and there, and Beats a little bit. But yeah, there was like a lot of good stuff in this film, I thought.
So, a quick question. So obviously, this is about this movie, but Saturday Night Live related. So as we all know, SNL typically, I guess up until recently, there was like maybe only one black dude on the show, and he was just playing the black roles, or black roles as in black woman, black man, any person black. Obviously things have changed. Like, what do you guys feel is like kind of the temperature about like blackness, in the SNL space?
I think lately it's been black as fuck. I mean, like blacker than
far more than
blacker than
anything,
it ever has in the past. I would say 5 years.
Yeah,
or so.
for sure.
And
I
that's
mean,
been a
just
problem.
historically. Yeah,
Oh,
but I want to say historically, because I'd say like we've been getting kind of black SNL, for maybe the last 8 years or so.
Historically, though, it's a white medium. Like the cast is just notoriously white. When you think about, when people name their top like SNL cast or cast members, it usually don't get to a black person until maybe 4 or 5, and that's if they remember. Unless it's a black person, we always start with Eddie. But for white people, it's like, Will Ferrell and Chevy Chase and Bill Murray, and then Eddie Murphy, or like maybe Chris Rock or Tracy Morgan gets thrown in there. But they're usually after the top 5.
Yeah.
And don't even get me started on the black woman, because I bet like some of them be like, I don't even know her. How would you say her name? She's really funny though.
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Like
Aaron?
I feel the same way. Like historically, it has not been great. Of course, the first one, Garrett Morris, and then after him, it was pretty. It's pretty like slim pickings for a while, up until Eddie Murphy comes out and blows everything out the water, and then I believe
In a hot tub.
Yeah, exactly, in the water.
gonna make me wet.
It's hot.
Yeah, and as far as women go, of course, the first one was like I believe Denitra Vance, and even I think before she passed, she even said she was given roles as like prostitute and maid, and she wasn't too wild. That kind of rubs her the wrong way, and yeah, it historically hasn't been great, but it is. I think like within the past 10, 15 years, it's definitely gotten better. Like we've had a cast where 2 black men and 2 black women at the same that was unheard of back in the 80s and 90s. And we're also seeing more black people in the writing room too, which plays a huge part in like what we see on the screen. Like I've noticed a lot more sketches with that mention like a lot of Def Comedy Jam premises in them, and I was like that's definitely because there's black people in the writing room. Like white watch that. So I mean, of course, so in the past it hasn't been the best, I will admit, but like we are getting better, and so that's that's all you can hope for.
Well, they're getting better, Darren. We already been good.
Yeah, we already been on the forefront of
True,
greatness.
true. You're right. You're right.
But because just like thinking about to my previous statement at the beginning of the show is I watch more like In Living Color, like Mad TV and some of the other sketch shows out there, and partly is because they had people who looked like me and had more similar sense of humor, a taste that I had. So like,
how much older are you than me? You're like 3 years older than me, right?
I'm 41. You're 30.
So 38. Yeah, okay. Because I'm just like, because Mad TV and Living Color, they were like 90, right? 1990, 91?
Yeah, early 90s.
Okay, because
Yeah,
I'm
early
like,
90s.
I got into all that around that time. Because to your point, Justin, I saw kids that looked like me. Not just people that look like me. I saw kids, so I just went through all that and shit like that. But you went
you also got to realize
TV.
I have older siblings.
That's right. Yeah,
so
you
I
do
was
move around a lot.
introduced to like I was listening to Richard Pryor when I was 4. You know what I'm saying? So I was like,
And then your mom's like, why you keep saying nigger?
like, you wonder why, nigga? Yeah. So I mean, so I guess it's just like it's weird because I knew of SNL because of Eddie Murphy, right? Like I watched those the best of Eddie Murphy like 10 times in a row. I watched it all the time. And then but I never really watched the show until I kind of got a little older because I was getting all this black content, in sketch, which was, and also at the time, it was just far better than what SNL, the product that SNL was putting out at the time. Because those early 90s In Living Color was destroying everything.
I remember for a while there, like especially there was the early 90s with the Adam Sandler, Chris Farley years where they were doing all right. But then as it got closer to the mid 90s, it was definitely falling off. And like In Living Color,
Superstar and The Ladies Man and stuff, like those movies weren't really resonating.
But for a while there, In Living Color was giving SNL like a run for its money because like that was a show I remember like the next day in school. On Monday, everybody was like, "Did you see Fire Marshal Bill? Did you see the head detective or whatever, or handyman?" Like we were all talking, like it was the hip show. Everybody was talking about it. SNL was like the old guard. It was kind of played out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been able to reinvent itself multiple times over. But not this movie. This movie only grossed $10 million off a $25 million budget, so it did not do very well. And I didn't think it was going to do very well when it just seemed like SNL people were reluctant to even endorse it. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, you would think that people were like, oh, yeah, this really does us justice, how the show was hectic and stuff like that. Like, even just people like from the cast. Like when Veep was huge, right? What was the great thing that actually made it even better was a lot of people watched it and were like, yeah, this shit's really like this. Like, it's not even like, a joke. Yeah. It would have been great to hear some people from SNL be like, to add to the authenticity, like, oh yeah, it is crazy and acting.
Yeah, I think the only person that was.
Yeah, but
I think the only person that really liked it was Aykroyd. I remember reading Aykroyd actually read.
He likes everything. He's just trying to get Ghostbusters 7 made. I have
Canadian, baby.
Dude, I have no trust in his taste after all the Ghostbusters stuff he's been helping produce and turning out.
Fair enough. I mean, the fact that the same people that made the last two Ghostbusters made this movie is like, and Aykroyd. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow. I'm thinking about it now. Yeah, that does make sense that he loves this movie because of that.
There you go. Our producer, sorry.
No, I also think part of it is just like, to get people to really speak to this film, you'd have to go with people who are on that original cast. And like Chevy Chase is not someone who's really in the public, that much. Garrett Morris, like he's still around, but Garrett Morris is a very old man right now. He's just, living his life. I mean, there are some people who are still living and stuff, but they are kind of more in obscurity at this point in their career because they are older and it's just, they're not really doing much. So it's like, who's going to come out and speak to this film and being like, this is what it was like, and also be able to be able to kind of recall, all of that. Because remember, most of these people are 80 some odd years old at this point.
Yeah, I get it. It's just, I don't know. I think there's a reason why it didn't work for, a plethora of reasons. I think not having the endorsement of SNL cast members, writers, and even Laura Michaels himself, like publicly, I think that probably hurt its box office prospects as well. But our producer, Yuvia, found some letterbox reviews she thought we should read on the podcast. Emily St. James wrote, all over the place, but it will teach a new generation of Americans about Milton Berle's Massive Hog. And for that, I clicked the heart.
It was all worth it then.
Right.
It's all worth it.
Fair.
You're like, hashtag me too. Riley Savage
White
wrote,
men be packing too.
Riley Savage wrote, where the hell was Kenan during all this? 3 out of 5 stars. Damn.
Yeah.
It is kind of crazy how long he's been on that show.
Because recently when we're recording this, the Jack Black episode came out, and like the first time Jack Black hosted SNL was back in 2003, and he hosted Kenan's very first show. He's been on the show. Like if somebody was born when Kenan's first show, they would like be in college right now. It's wild.
That's wild.
That's nuts.
And you know what? He looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Like if you look back, then he doesn't really look that different.
No.
It's kind of crazy.
Moisturizer, baby.
Yeah, moisturizer, and you got a good crew around you that will beat up somebody who maybe tries to hook up with your ex-wife. Anyways,
there you go.
All right.
Yikes.
Ram Heartsign wrote, Rachel Sennell and Dylan O'Brien are the reason for my bisexuality. 4.5 out of 5 stars.
I get it.
Okay,
Cool.
fair enough.
Sophie Hallsinger wrote, I liked it when they told us how much time was left in the movie. 2.5 out of 5 stars. I mean, they do have a countdown clock, for sure.
Yeah.
Kay Spire wrote, insanely stacked with white boys of the month. 3 out of 5 stars. All right. Well, Justin, break down our rating system, baby.
First of all, stop calling me baby. But also, guys, you know how we do this. We rate movies back to popcorn, small, medium, large, and the XL for the exceptional. If a film doesn't deserve any hot, buttery, delicious popcorn, we throw it into the stale popcorn pile. We pile piles and piles of stale popcorn on top of it. So, guys, we sat down and we watched the 2024 American biological comedy drama film, Saturday Night, starring a crazy cast. I don't even want to get through all of these people, but Darin Patterson. What's
I'm gonna go ahead and give this a large. Like I'll admit, it's not a perfect film. I think it's one of those films where I liked more of it than I didn't like. I will admit there are a lot of Easter eggs in it that I feel like if you're not a fan of SNL, you might not get. Like at the beginning of this podcast, we talked about kill all the whiteys I see when Garrett sings that. If you don't know, that's from an actual sketch from season 1. You'll be like, why is this man singing about killing white people? That and everybody's applauding. That seems terrifying.
No, that must have been such uncomfortable laughter in real time.
I guess, so. And yeah, it does have a lot of kind of cheesy tropes in it, and some clunky dialogue here and there. But I did like a lot of the performances. I thought the stairwell scene between Cooper Hoffman and Gabriel, I really liked, and
That's the best scene.
It's a strong scene, and I like the look of it too because I believe it was shot on film. It looks really nice, and it does have a good vibe to it. And so yeah, I'll give. And because I'm an SNL nerd, I will give it a large. I'll land on that.
All right, Brandon.
Okay, if I hadn't rewatched this movie for this episode, it would have been a medium. But I did rewatch this movie because it's on Netflix, and it brought it down because I found myself rolling my eyes way too much. I'm just like, you didn't need this beat. I would say just follow Lauren. Just follow Lauren for the whole show, and he passes by these people that they casted him enough to look like the real life counterpart. Just let me know, or you could even tag them, insert the caption.
Yes,
hey,
this is Lapsin.
This is Chevy Chase.
Yeah,
this is, you know what I mean? Just I want to follow Lauren because this could have been like a fun, fucked up version of Uncut Gems. Not that Uncut Gems isn't fucked up, but think about like a sketch comedy kind of version of that, where things just get worse and worse. He's just like halfway through. This is how I lose. Where's Julia Fox with that big ass? So this gets a small.
Jesus Christ, Brandon.
I wanted it to work. It just didn't for me. Like it was just felt too contrived at times. The pacing was weird and awkward at moments. It felt like it led to nothing. I was just kind of like it ends. It's supposed to end with this huge crescendo and pop. I'm like, I should be feeling like the end of Whiplash right now, where I was like, that was incredibly intense and uncomfortable at times, but I liked it. I appreciate that journey. This one was just like, okay, it's over. All right, nah, let me go make some tea. And I never drink tea. So, Justin, what's your rating?
Drinking out of a goblet, baby.
He didn't even drink nothing.
That's
Darin, you
not
saw
even
that.
miming.
I did drink something.
Oh, there was something in there?
No, I did drink some. I just finished it.
Okay.
So first of all, I just want to, to kill the white people thing. Do you think that the Eddie Murphy sketch of he's a the Jamaican band thing, like, was it just a rehash of that sketch?
Maybe.
No, I mean the original sketch.
And it was an
Yeah,
ode
like
to?
maybe it's an ode to it because like I know the original sketch that Garrett did it. It was like he was playing like some prison inmate they were giving like a talent show in prison, and he was singing a song about killing all the whiteys. He's
That's a funny premise.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, in the Eddie Murphy sketch, he's like performing at like a VFW.
yeah, I think maybe it was an homage to that a little bit. That's possible.
Yeah, and like everyone's like kind of leaving and whatnot. We're gonna wait outside. All right. Anyhow,
What's your rating, bad boy?
Shut up, Fred.
I called you bad boy, not baby.
I know what you did,
Baby.
As you know, I'm a big SNL fan. And like I love the show. So for that, like I felt things for this, but there are holes. There are definite holes, but I think there are holes.
It's just an innuendo. I felt this. There are holes. I'm like, Jesus, get me clear. What are you talking?
But I still feel like this deserves a medium for me. I think it delivered enough. I think that the parts that they hit were more than the times I was just like, what the hell is happening here?
Justin, we've done shows that are way more tense and have more conflict than this thing did.
Well, let's not even get into those stories, Brett.
Okay.
No, let's get into those stories.
I've had to deal with way worse than this. I've had to deal with a venue that basically was like, hey, you're not really going to have a show here unless you do these things in less than an hour. So no one's going to be monologuing about growing up in a cabin in Ontario during that time.
Oh, wow.
But Darin, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for supporting us since the beginning of the podcast, man. Please tell the people how they can follow you and learn about SNL Nerds.
Yeah, if you want to listen to the little podcast I do called SNL Nerds, we're on the Non-Productive Network, non-productive.com. And you can find us wherever you listen to your podcast. You can follow us on Blue Sky, SNL Nerds bsky.social. I think it's the long one. And we're around, and give us a listen. And always you can follow me on all the socials at Darin Credible, Darin Credible. And I'll put up whatever I do show dates. I still do stand up, so follow me there and get it on the good foot. I had nothing planned.
We appreciate that. Get on the good foot, everybody. As always, you can follow the show at Medium P Podcast on all social media platforms. You can follow me at Broto_Blackens on Instagram and Threads. Go to youtube.com/Media Popcorn. Be sure to push that subscribe button to get alerted about future reviews and celebrity interviews we have on Future. Yes. I know. I have a speech impediment, folks. I've come to embrace it. And then don't forget to leave us a voicemail at 347-464-8214. What's good? It's 347-464-8214. And Justin, tell people how they can follow you as well as support the show financially.
Well, guys, you can follow me at JBrownDitto on all the social media platforms. If you want to support this show, you want to make this show even better than what it is. We don't talk about making shit great because that is not a good sign right now. Take yourself over to Patreon, patreon.com/Medium Popcorn. We have $2, $5, $10, and $15 packages. Our entire backlog is on Patreon. We have so much content. It's stupid. It's stupid. And it's also stupid that you're not on there.
Yes.
So again, patreon.com/Medium Popcorn.
Support the show, folks. Come on. It's getting tough out there. Justin, I
Respect
need
your mama.
this. All right. Thank you, Darin, so much, man. We
No, thanks for
appreciate
having
you.
me. That's fantastic.
Thanks, Darin.
Medium popcorn.
Hope you all enjoyed that fun episode with Darin Patterson. Now, as promised, here's my conversation with Don't Tell Comedy CEO Kyle Amory.
Medium popcorn.
All right. I'm joined with Kyle Amory, who is the founder of Don't Tell Comedy. I had the pleasure of checking out one of their shows recently in New York City. It was an incredible experience, a lot of fun. Kyle, thank you so much for joining me to talk about your shows.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So tell me a little bit about the origin of Don't Tell Comedy. Like, how did you get started? Like, what was the genesis of the idea?
Yeah, so I started doing stand-up back in like 2015, and I did a lot of really bad shows. And so part of the genesis for Don't Tell was trying to improve the live comedy experience for both the audience and the comedians. A lot of times you're performing in like breweries or bars that are super loud and people aren't there to see the show. And so with Don't Tell, the kind of the goal was let's take over a space, whether it's a local business or just some sort of unconventional space where you could have a comedy show and put 50 people in there that are there to see the show with no distractions, and put together a dope lineup, and kind of like base the show off of just overall quality that the audience can expect. So none of the names of the comedians are released. You show up to a random location that you're only sent 12 hours before the show starts.
Okay.
So you get tickets. You don't know where you're going. You know the neighborhood, and then it'll say, show up to this surf shop that's down the street. And when you get to the surf shop, it's like a little comedy club set up inside the store. But just having really, really great lineups on and building the reputation that way is how we really started to get going.
Okay. And how was your approach to these venues? Be like, hey, we want to have a pop-up comedy show. Like, how do you source them and how do you convince them to let you do it? Because I know what that's like to have to pitch venues on your comedy event and things.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like when I first started, one of the first venues we did was this clothing store down the street, and I was so nervous to ask them to do a show at their place that I would like go in once a week and like buy something. And like I became friends with the owners that way. So after maybe a month and $150 later, I was like, "Hey, would you ever consider, hosting a comedy show?" And at the time, it wasn't really common, these kind of pop-up style events in like local businesses.
Yep.
So they were like kind of apprehensive, but they liked me and like we're just kind of down to try one out, and they loved it. And then once I did a couple in these spaces, I had really good pictures to show other business owners, be like, here's how it looks, here's the comedians we had on. And that helped to kind of book more spots.
But how would you get them to like support you, like setting up? I mean, at the time, I'm sure it was bare bones compared to the production I saw, where it was just like a microphone, a stand, maybe a stool, and some chairs, right? But was that the usual setup, or like was it always kind of elaborate? And
yeah, it's pretty bare bones. Like, we bring in chairs, we bring in a PA system and a microphone and a mic stand. And my pitch to the kind of business owners was, look, I want this to be a fun night out for you. Like you can invite some friends, they can come for free. And like, basically I'll do all the work. You don't need to lift a chair. And so you can just kind of hang out. And so just making it easy for them and just handling all the like work to like move stuff around. And some business owners really liked it too, because I would say, hey, we can tell the audience to come a half hour early and like shop around, and it's kind of more foot traffic for your business. And so people buy things when at these shows, which is really cool. So we're kind of supporting businesses while putting on this cool event.
Okay, nice. Tell me about some of the challenges though, working with these venues, especially one-offs. Like, what were some of the things that happened when, like, did the venue change something significantly when you came to set up, or did they decide last minute, I don't want to do it? Like, tell me about some of those challenges.
We had a crazy situation in up in the Bay Area where we had a show scheduled that was supposed to be at a yoga studio, and our producer up there shows up hour and a half before. Nobody's there, place is locked. And so, well, it was like, well, what do we do? And he called me. I was like, you can't get a hold of him? He's like, no. So I was like, well, I guess we're gonna have to cancel like the show. And like I stepped out of a show that I was in like Denver at the time. I start calling all the guests to be like, I'm so sorry, like we're not gonna be able to do the show. 5 people in, I like they're like, oh, I live down the street and I'm down to host it at my place if you guys want to bring everything over. And
Okay.
so I called everyone else again that I'd already called and be like, actually, the show is back on. If you still want to come, we're gonna do it at this person's house that's like 2 blocks over from this yoga studio.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, we refunded everyone anyways, but I was like, if you still want to come and see a show, like we're still gonna do it. And we ended up doing it, and it was great. And people showed up. Like I'd say 80% of the people that were going to come showed up. That was early days before we like built better systems to make sure they were following up with the venue owners and stuff like that. But you know, this stuff just happens when you're getting started.
Of course, I can imagine the headache and everything like that. Now you mentioned, show in the Bay while you were in Denver and everything like that, and like you had a producer that had the foresight to be there 90 minutes early, which even for me gives me a little bit of anxiety. I would be there even earlier, especially for a
Yeah.
pop up. But how do you source like your other producers and trust them like almost like franchisees, right?
Yeah.
To represent the brand and find the right spaces that are representative of you, the comics, and also meet the audience expectations.
Yeah, that was one of the hardest things for me for a while, is just kind of like giving up the control of, because everything needs to be perfect when I'm showing up.
Yeah.
I'm like, every chair is placed a certain way and the lights are set up in a certain way. And so it took a while. And like at the beginning, I literally drove from LA where I started this. I drove up to San Francisco, drove up to Seattle, Portland, would like put on shows. And when I went to these other cities, I would meet really great comics that also produced their own local shows in those cities. And so like in the beginning, it was just I met these people while I was doing Don't Tell shows in their city, and then kind of would ask them like, "Hey, would you be interested in running like a Don't Tell show?" Um, and everyone was really stoked on it because they saw how much fun it was when they were just on it as a performer. And I told them how like the really the benefit to working with us from as a comedian is we sell all the tickets. Like you don't need to worry about promoting the show at all because the brand just kind of sells the tickets and stuff. And that's the hardest thing about running a show, is just getting people to come out and see it. So if you work with us, then you really just need to worry about finding a location and then showing up the day of, setting it up, all that stuff, and booking a lineup. But I think like to your question, like I built the whole little handbook of here's how you set up the chairs, here's how you do this, here's how you do this. But finding people that I trusted to do it and do it well was super important. It's still one of the most important things for us, to make sure that the quality stays super high across all these cities.
Great. I really appreciate you giving that context. How do you go about, so I imagine like when you were going to those other shows, you're also kind of like scouting comics, right? Like, cause I know you mentioned in our conversation offline, like you sometimes fly folks in and stuff like that. So how do you like curate your lineups and determine like how many folks you want on the lineup of like a Portland show to be local and how many you might fly in for a special, show or something like that?
Yeah, so we have like 2 categories of shows. We have our normal shows that are, so you went to like a taping, which is we do those once every 2 months, and we have a whole crew that comes in and we're setting up these fancy lights and cameras and stuff. And that's a huge deal because we put those sets on our YouTube channel, and it's an opportunity for a comedian to like get tons of exposure and build a fan base off of just one 10-minute set that they do. But we have shows going on, like this weekend, we have 140 shows going on around the world, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because when I started this, I thought we'd only be in like 5 cities. I didn't know that there are all these really great local comedy scenes in different areas of the country. So for our normal shows, it's a mixture of like the best local talent and then people like the best regional talent. So if you're a comic in Atlanta's a really strong scene.
Oh yeah.
And so if our shows in Charlotte usually have 1 or 2 comics coming in from Atlanta.
Okay.
and they're willing to drive because it's a great show. They'll get paid enough to make it worth their time. So yeah, it's a mixture of local and regional, and then occasionally we get, some bigger name drop-ins, like usually just in the bigger cities. Like we've had Bill Burr and Ali Wong drop in at our shows in
Nice.
LA.
Love LA.
Michael Che randomly did a show in a hair salon in Minneapolis. We don't usually get people like Michael Che dropping into our shows in Minneapolis, but
Yeah.
that was a special one.
Nice, nice. Yeah, like well, I mean, hundreds of shows. That's at one night or one, like, over a weekend and stuff. That's just insane. Like, logistically, just how do you? I know you have like a team, but how did that even come to fruition? Like, how did you start building up the team and like, like you said, like you said earlier, like just giving away more power, and delegating more.
Yeah, it's really about empowering other people to take on more responsibility. And we have somebody local who's in every single city where we're doing
Mm,
shows. Most people running our shows are comedians themselves. They're one of the
yeah.
better comics in that local scene. And so just over time, like the nice thing too for our business is when we started kind of picking up some steam back in 2019, we were in like maybe 40 cities. Um, and that was a couple years in. I started this in 2017, but we started having comedians reach out to us saying, "Hey, I'd love to do this. I did a show when I was traveling through Boston,
Mm,
and I live in Providence or I live in DC. I'd love to bring this to my city." So we didn't like aggressively try to expand and find people in all these cities. People came to us, which was really cool. Um, and just based off of the reputation and the experience that comedians had on our shows. Because comedians are always looking to run good shows,
mm.
and partnering with us, like I kind of talked about before, is makes it a lot easier.
That makes sense. Tell me about tell me about, like, without naming the comedian, unless like, I don't think you would want to, but like tell me about like a disastrous comedic booking or just situation that you were like, oh boy, like I don't know how to handle this.
Yeah, I think the most annoying thing, and everyone who runs comedy shows knows this, is like when people bail like last second. So it's like we've had people bail after a show has started, and like
That's the
we're like,
pain
all
I
right,
know all too well.
you're supposed to go up in 45 minutes.
Yep, yep. Oh, that's a good wiggle room. I've had comic
Yeah.
cancel 15 minutes before their set. Luckily,
Yeah.
like, but I'm sure at Don't Tell you have a lot of comedians that come just to support and like watch, so you can maybe like pull someone from there. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's still terrifying.
Yeah, it's brutal. And the nice thing is we don't release the lineup ahead of time. So the audience will never knows. So it just ends up meaning like somebody does a little bit more time who's already on the lineup, or if there's like somebody who can like swing through and do a spot and cover, great. I think that's the most annoying thing to have to deal with as a comedy producer.
100%. So, if you don't release the lineups, which sometimes entices audience members to, buy tickets and go to your shows, what was the strategy for creating a groundswell where you're basically in a bunch of different countries at this point?
Yeah, like initially it was word of mouth is how we kind of grew our audience. And that was in LA. And so just people telling their friends. We tried to really encourage people, despite the name, like Don't Tell, like please, please tell everyone you can about this. And I think, that's always going to be our best marketing tool, is just people having a good experience and telling other people. But then we also like started running ads on like Instagram and Facebook. And so still a lot of people find out about our shows from like social media ads. And what we sell, which is different from a lot of other comedy shows, is we're really selling an experience. And the pictures it's not a close up of a comedian. It's like a cool shot of a show that's at a planetarium or on a rooftop or something like that.
Yep.
So I think that's part of the secret to our success, is just like, people are coming to our show because it's a really fun night out, not necessarily because they're a huge comedy fan. It might be we've had a lot of people, it's their first time seeing a comedy show. They love it. And then they come back for more. And that's what I think one of our goals is like, we want to be people's introduction to stand up. and a really positive first experience where they'll, even if it's not coming back to our shows, it's going to see a comedian they really liked at our show at a comedy club or something like that. There's too many bad shows. Like,
There's
I
so
know
many bad shows.
from doing them when I was starting out, like, you know, you see people come to a show, it's a really bad show, and they're completely turned off to stand up for the rest of their life. Like they're like, I don't want to do this again. I show up 5 people at a brewery and there's a first comics yelling at me, and it's like,
You definitely started comedy in LA.
yeah, exactly. That would be a good show if you have 5 people there. So yeah, I think that's a really cool thing about our shows. It's a great introduction for people.
Absolutely. And what's next for Don't Tell Comedy? I know you're like obviously filming a lot of the shows and giving comedians great footage, everything like that. But what's the next step, or do you know what that is yet?
Yeah, we're figuring it out as we go along, but I think like the last 3 years have been figuring out like how to shoot stand up, film these like short form comedy specials. Our goal with that was we want to be the biggest discovery platform for stand up on the internet, and we've kind of done that, which is cool. So now we're like the go-to place where comedians who are more like up and coming can take that next step in their career. It used to be late night TV back in the day, but we've now stepped into that. So that's great. And so I think we just started releasing some half-hour specials, which we're hoping is like an extension of these short 10-minute sets.
Right.
Kind of like what Comedy Central used to do, where you can there's this pathway where you go from doing a short set to a half hour and to eventually an hour. And so we just started releasing those. We're hoping to build that out, do more stuff like that. And then I think one of the big things over the next year or two will be festivals for us. Like, I want to do our own festival, and maybe multiple festivals. So that's something we're working on. And then I think another thing we were really excited about doing is like extending our relationship with comedians beyond stand-up and into like film and television. So if a comedian has a great idea for a pilot, like maybe we can be the ones to help make that happen, and like, maybe fund it, help shoot it, whatever. We want to help we want to basically continue to help elevate comedians. And I think that'll mean doing stuff outside of stand-up.
100%. I mean, I absolutely see festivals in your future. Like that seems like the next layup, honestly, based on what you're already doing and like what you're accomplishing. And there's an appetite for it, like based on the success of like Skankfest and other comedy festivals. I think that there's definitely, especially with what you're doing and the way you are curating your lineups and just the way that like the audiences are excited at the shows. I think that that's absolutely the next step for Don't Tell.
Yeah, I think it's doable. I think it's very doable.
100%. So, Kyle, please tell the listeners how they can follow Don't Tell, keep up with all the shows, and find a show that's local in their town or city.
Yeah, it's don'ttellcomedy.com, and you'll be able to find your city and see if there's a show that's popping up near you. And then on YouTube, just search Don't Tell Comedy, and you can check out some dope comedians that you may not have heard of before, and follow along as their careers blow up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time. And folks, please go check out Don't Tell Comedy Show. It's amazing. It's a great experience. And of course, funny comedians. Kyle's got good taste.
Medium popcorn. We are two niggas spoiling movies. Brandon Collins, that's me, and Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault.